not a game, it's a rich thing.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. My name is Ryan Linkletter, and I am back with another 7-round mock draft for you guys. And today we are tackling the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs have made some very good moves. I'll say this offseason, they went out and signed Jalen Moore. I made a video about him being one of the more underrated free agency signings this year. I put that video above for you guys right now. They re-signed Charles Omenihu. They re-signed Hollywood Brown. They got back Kareem Hunt. They got Elijah Mitchell. They added a guy like Christian Fulton on the outside of cornerback, which they desperately needed. The Chiefs have done a great job of adding players. And, hey, they went out and got Nick Bolton back. They went out and got Trey Smith back as well. The only guy that's big that's really missing on this Chiefs team right now is Joe Thuney, who they traded and ultimately opened up a hole at guard, which I think Kingsley Suamata is going to take over this next season. So it'll be interesting to see. But the Chiefs are in a great spot due to Brett Veach bringing back a lot of the key players on this team, while not necessarily breaking the bank. And it gives them a lot of flexibility in the draft, which is definitely nice, considering the fact that the Chiefs have a few key needs this offseason. So let's hop right into the draft and see if we can get the Chiefs back to a Super Bowl for the 4th straight season. So let's get right into it here. It's definitely interesting when we tackle this draft. A lot of people want to talk about the needs at tackle, and it's for sure a need. I do think the Chiefs are going to wind up addressing it within the first 3 rounds, but I think Jalen Moore might be a little bit more underrated than people think. So we will see who's available to us at 31 here. And based on the guys available, you have Josh Connerly Jr., who I talked to at the draft. He said he would absolutely love to block for Patrick Mahomes. And honestly, I do think that is a guy that they are strongly considering at that tackle spot. He's been really good at Oregon throughout his career. Definitely a very good pass blocker, not as good in the run game. But to be honest, the bigger need for me is at defensive tackle. And you have Darius Alexander and Derrick Harmon here. Alexander is more of a run stuffer. Harmon is more of a pass rusher that honestly, with Chris Jones starting to get a little bit older, and we don't know how much longer Chris Jones has left, I think Harmon's the better fit. Harmon is a guy who's a stronger pass rusher. He's had more career production than Alexander at a bigger school. I truly think Harmon's development has been key in him jumping into the end of the first round. And he's been a popular guy that a lot of people have mocked to Kansas City, and I think he'd be a great fit for them here at the end of the first round, addressing their defensive tackle needs. Now, looking at who's available at this point, there's definitely a few players that jump off to me, and we're going to start with Aireontae Ersery. Now, he is one of the players that has some of the highest upside in this draft. Let me just say that right now. He was really good at Minnesota in both the ground and pass blocking, but there is a little bit of injury concerns from what I heard around at the draft that, could cause him to slip. I know a lot of people talked about him as a potential first round pick, but the talent is there. And I think getting him at the end of the second round gives the Chiefs a very good development tackle, and they don't have to start him this year like I think a lot of people were pressing them to do if they got him in the first round maybe 2 months ago before the Jalen Moore signing. So I think getting him there at the end of the second gives them a development left tackle. Now, what gets interesting here is the Chiefs' needs versus getting the best overall player available. A guy like Josiah Stewart here from Michigan, really, really good pass rusher, strong production throughout his career. And I do think the Chiefs would consider him at this spot because, yes, they do need another edge rusher. I know they brought back Omenihu, but to be honest, the production from edge rushers in Kansas City has been very mediocre throughout the Mahomes era. What I will say, though, is the best overall player here is Trey Henderson. And a guy that Trey Henderson reminds me of is Jamal Charles with the ball in his hands. When Henderson touches the ball, it's special. He makes plays in the passing game, the running game that are just explosive, big chunk plays that you can't find. And to be honest, I understand that Elijah Mitchell and Kareem Hunt were signed by this team. It's a 1-year contract. They're not guaranteed to have these guys on the roster for more than a season or even this year alone. They could cut them in camp. I think getting a talent like Henderson to go along with Pacheco, as long as they have him, is a really good fit. Henderson gives him that explosive ability at running back that they have desperately been missing for quite some time. Now we get into the 3rd round here, and you have safeties here. I'm not necessarily convinced that the Chiefs are that high on the safety priority list. I think Jordan Hicks did a really good job in Kansas City last year, and that's partly why they felt comfortable moving on from Justin Reed, but you kind of look at some of these players here, and the one player that really stands out for me is a small school guy that not a lot of you guys have heard, and it's David Walker from Central Arkansas. Now, David Walker, yes, he has been at a small school, but dude, the production is unbelievable throughout his career at Central Arkansas. His first year, he had 16 sacks. His second year, he had 9 sacks. His third year, he had 12 sacks. He has been a grade monster, according to PFF, and honestly, one of the more sneaky edge rushers available in this draft. I know he's a small school player, though, who doesn't necessarily have the tape against these bigger schools that a lot of these other guys have, and people are worried that the production won't transfer over. At the end of the third round, though, you don't find very many edge rushers as that has as many accolades as Walker does, despite being at a smaller school. I truly think that Walker is a sneaky pick in the third round and probably one of the better values in the third round. And I think with the Chiefs getting them at the spot that they do, it's a very good pick for them to go through and establish their edge rushers and kind of build on that going forward. And it doesn't necessarily mean they have to go through and hold on to guys like Charles Omenihu. I know Mike Dana has an opt-out of his contract after this next season they can get out of. Carl Loftus is coming up as a free agent as well. They don't want to pay him. Getting a guy like Walker there gives them a developmental edge that they can work into the starting lineup. And they obviously have FAU too, who they're tied to for another 2 years. Heading into the fourth round here, this is where I think it gets a little bit interesting and murkier for the Kansas City Chiefs. You get to this point where you look at a lot of quarterbacks and halfbacks that are high for PFF that I don't think are really going to go this high, but there they are. You have Zy Alexander, a guy that I think is a pretty good player, but I think the Chiefs are going to wait on cornerbacks. We've seen them really develop cornerbacks very well at the end of the draft. I think a guy that I'm going to look at is Luke Kandra here from Cincinnati to go through and add another guard to this roster. I know they're probably planning on moving Kingsley inside, but Kandra was very productive in college, only allowed 4 sacks, and that was all in 2023. And he has a pass blocking grade of 84.1 this past season. I think he's a really productive player, and getting him in the fourth round is a really solid pick for Kansas City, trying to fill that guard hole that they've been, that's kind of open right now with the departure of Joe Thuney. The Chiefs are going to have a massive break in between picks right here, but that's no big deal because we're about to cook up here in round 7 and get some really good impact players for Kansas City. Now, what's interesting here is I think safeties are something that the Chiefs are definitely considering. They have 3 picks in the 7th round, and I think the safety is one. I think a cornerback is one. I truly think that those are the main positions of need. Looking through these guys, the main name that I was really interested in that's a sneaky prospect is Hunter Wohler here. He had a very good 2023 season, not as good in 2024, but he tested extremely well at the combine and is one of the highest athletes in the 2025 draft class. And I think the Chiefs love guys that can play in different positions. And I think Wohler fits that mold for Kansas City and would be a great fit for them there. And then heading into their second pick here, one of the guys that I did really like earlier, mocking him to Kansas City, was Johnny Walker Jr., giving them another option at edge rusher, staying close to home from Missouri. And then the final pick I had, where is he? Mac McWilliams here from UCF heading to Kansas City. Overall, though, really solid mock draft here, in my opinion. PFF is probably not going to give me a good grade because they hate my mocks, but Harmon in the first round gives us an A. That's what they need. Establish that defensive interior line. Aireontae Ersery getting a solid development left tackle. Trey Henderson giving us a C+ is absolutely absurd. He's a great pick at the end of round 3, getting the Chiefs a true explosive playmaker that they haven't had in the backfield for quite some time. David Walker is a very good underrated player. You got Kandra to go fill in the guard, and then you get 3 7th-round picks that you're drafting. Obviously, Johnny Walker is more of just a hometown pick, but Hunter Wohler is an extremely athletic safety that I think Spags would love. And then Mac McWilliams had some production in college as well. Could be a really solid player for them. Ultimately, though, guys, I think we kind of cooked here. I think the Kansas City Chiefs definitely are in a spot where they're retooling this roster versus rolling out a very similar team to what we've seen in the past. The Chiefs passing game has got to get better. They've gone away from the deep ball, and I think getting a left tackle like Ersery and then obviously the Jalen Morad is very big for this team long term. As far as the wide receivers go, they're not going to add any. I think the trio of Rice, Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy is a really solid trio as long as they're on the field together. Getting a guy like Trey Henderson, though, opens things up on the ground game and giving them an explosive playmaker that they've desperately needed in this offense for quite some time. Now, defensively, you're getting a guy like Derrick Harmon who can fill in for Chris Jones long term if Chris Jones' production starts to slip over time. And I think they do need a defensive tackle badly in this draft. Getting a guy like David Walker from Central Arkansas is definitely a good edge rusher upside for them, considering the fact they always have late round picks. And getting a guy with that type of production in the third round would ultimately be a dream pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. And ultimately, though, guys, I think with the Chiefs, you have to think like you have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid every single season. The roster does not have to be perfect, but we've seen it be ugly the last 2 seasons in Kansas City. I truly think that this Chiefs draft gives them the deepest roster they've had in the Mahomes era, which is very, very exciting and scary for other teams. We will see, though. I think the Chiefs are going to have a great draft. They have plenty of picks to play with, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go trade up for a player they love. We've seen them do that in the past. What do you guys think? What would you grade my 7th round mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs? If you're interested in more Blitz Sports Media content, make sure you check out some of our other videos and hit that subscribe button for more 7th round mock drafts.